dry throat. I want to talk a little bit about imposter syndrome. So it's something that I do want to. I'm going to have a longer conversation on with a few other people, probably on the Best Overall show at some point, because it is something that I've definitely struggled with today. Sorry, not today, but my whole life. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about it in the next month or so. But there's actually a few specific guests that I want to get on for those episodes, because I feel like they have kind of similar approaches to life. But for those of you that don't know, if you're wondering what imposter syndrome is, well, it's basically this just like kind of idea that this feeling that you have that like everything that you've done, whether it's like professionally or personally or, you know, in your hobbies, right? They are your accomplishments or the things that you're proud of are not that significant. And a lot of people maybe give you credit for things that you don't deserve credit for. And then at some point, people are going to realize that you don't actually deserve credit, or that you didn't actually do a great job. And you're going to be outed as like an imposter, essentially, right? So the idea is that like you see some success in something that you do. People give you lots of accolades, or they say that you do a great job, but you have this sinking feeling that they're missing something. They're not seeing that, you know, maybe you're not as good as they think you are. You're not actually like that like great chef, or good Warhammer player, or good painter, right? In fact, you're actually bad at all those things, but for some reason people think you're good at them. And you live with this kind of dread that at any moment someone is going to discover that truth and realize that you're an imposter, and that like anxiety and that like fear can really dominate like your life in a lot of ways. And so this is something that I've struggled with for a long time in my life. I've been cooking for about 15 years, and I I've opened I was a chef when I was 27 or 28. I'm 36 now, so I've been a chef for about like a head chef for a long time. Although I'm not a head chef anymore, I'm like a culinary director, so a very fancy title. But basically that means that I develop recipes and do business stuff, but I don't actually like work in the restaurants. But I, when we opened, when I first became a chef, the restaurant I took over had its own menu. So, and I work for a larger kind of corporate group, and so I wasn't really responsible for developing the menu, doing all the creative stuff. And I've always been a pretty creative guy. Like I've always obviously felt like I was a good cook, and I could come up with good dishes, but not until I partnered with my current business partners and started our restaurants was it ever entirely up to me to kind of like come up with everything. So this was kind of the first chance I had to really kind of show people what I could do on my own. And that was a terrifying experience for me, because, you know, we had spent about $1 million on a restaurant, building out a restaurant in Vancouver, and the concept was totally unproven. It's a vegan concept, so on top of just being unproven, there's like a bunch of additional like challenges, right? I hadn't cooked a lot of vegan food before, but here I was, 28 or 30 years old, opening a vegan restaurant for the first time, my own restaurant for the first time, having never done any of those things before. Not even having really even made much vegan food until like 6 months previous. So you can imagine what that feels like as a chef, the kind of level of like anxiety and like fear, I guess, that goes into like that thing that you're about to do. And suffice to say, somehow, I don't know how, and this is where the imposter syndrome comes. I don't know how, but our first restaurant was like super successful. So knocked out of the park. I remember our first day opening, we ended up having to close early because we ran out of food. And for like, for weeks and weeks, we had lineups outside. And it was just like right away, it was just like a runaway hit. And that was like such a good feeling. It was such a big kind of boost, I guess, for me professionally, because there was so much riding on that one restaurant. You know, I had millions of dollars of money invested, and all this pressure. Not just millions of dollars of money, but $1 million of other people's money, right? It'd be one thing if it was my own money, which probably make it more pressure. But the fact that, you know, people were relying on me to create something really cool. So that was like a really difficult but rewarding thing. And you know, since then I went on to open, Jesus, 5 more restaurants. And every time we opened one of the restaurants, that same feeling that this is the restaurant where people are finally going to discover that I don't know what the fuck I'm doing is going to be the one. So like, we'd open one restaurant, it would be successful, and we'd say, okay, let's open another restaurant, and then we'd work on it, and then we'd open another restaurant, and I'd say, okay, well, this is the one where people are going to really finally realize that I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm you know, they're gonna discover that I'm an imposter, so to speak. And this happened 4 times in a row, and each time the restaurant was successful and things went well for the most part. You know, it hasn't always been perfect, but for the most part, the restaurants have been successful. None quite as successful as the very first one, so never managed to strike that iron twice. But it was, you know, definitely a very humbling experience. And I still, to this day, you know, as I mentioned before, I spent so much time doing these menus, and you know, even today, after opening 5 restaurants in 6 restaurants, sorry, in 4 years, you know, doing this menu rollout, there was a moment today where I was having a discussion with my chef and my general manager, and you know, we had gotten a bad review, and I said to them, I was like, hey, I want you guys to answer me a question, like really, like I'm gonna just like talk a little bit, and I'm gonna maybe like try to explain what my thinking is right now when I see these reviews and like how I feel. And like I was like, you guys tell me if I'm being psychotic and crazy. And basically I was like, look, we just got this like really bad review. This lady was basically like, came to the restaurant, said she hated everything. You know, the service was shitty, the food was shitty, and like, this is our newest restaurant, which we opened in September, which is like a kind of a casual fine dining restaurant. And for the most part, we've been getting like really good reviews, It's been busy. I mean, all things considered, we're still in a pandemic, so it's been as busy as these kind of things could be. Hey K-Pie, thanks for the comment there, man. I appreciate it. I don't know where you ate it, but I do appreciate it. If it was in Vancouver or if it was in Portland or somewhere else. But anyway, so I asked them, I was like, guys, you know, we get these reviews, we get a lot of really good reviews, and then we get like the one bad review, and of course always the bad review sticks with me, because in my head, this is the imposter syndrome in my head, I think, you know, all these other people, we've managed to fool them. But this one person with the bad review, they're the first person that's finally seeing through this like charade of like you know, mediocre food and mediocre service and mediocre restaurants, and finally the jig is up. You know, like all these other people that left really good reviews, that really love the restaurant, that say it's like one of the best things they've ever had, they're all full of shit and they don't know shit. But the one person that comes in and leaves a bad review, has a bad experience, they got it right. Everyone else is wrong, and that one person has it right. Like, when I even repeat that back to you guys, it sounds totally mentally fucked. Like, imagine having that approach to things where you literally don't believe any of the good things that happen, and you think that, no, the reason good things happen or people say nice things is not because they're actually good or nice, but because people are just dumb and they don't have taste and they don't know what they want. But then when the one bad review comes in, you're like, oh, this is the one person with good taste that finally gets that we suck. Like, that's literally like the self-destructive nature of imposter syndrome. And then that leads into like, it leads into like a fucking like feedback loop where you start to doubt everything you're doing, right? Like, you're like, you get that one bad review and you're like, fuck, like, the food sucks, let's start again. The service sucks, let's fire everyone. let's retrain, let's reopen, let's, you know, let's like we're failures, right? And this is literally my mindset. This is literally like what I deal with. Like this is where my head goes, and this is what I was talking about today that I was struggling with, because I had this conversation with my chef and GM, and I looked at them and I said how I felt, and they literally were like, my chef was like, dude, I totally am the same. I feel the same. And my GM was like, are you guys fucking mental? Um, like, what are you talking about? Like, people love the food. My GM, who actually talks to the guests, she's like, I talk to tables all the time, and everyone says everything's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, but like, they probably just don't really know what good food is like. They probably just go to shitty restaurants all the time, and then they come to our restaurant, which is like mediocre, and they think it's amazing. So they don't really know. Like, that's the kind of like mental gymnastics that I put myself through on a daily. And like in a way, it actually makes me better at what I do, because it makes it so that I'm never satisfied and never happy with anything that I do. I'm always pushing myself to be better, stronger, faster. I'm never satisfied with like good enough. Everything has to be excellent or better. I'm always looking at everything that I do with a critical eye and an eye towards how we can improve. So in a sense, that's very it's very good for like the kind of continuous improvement of what we do. But God, I gotta tell you guys, it's fucking like, it's depressing. Like, it's depressing to feel that like everything that you do is just an accident, and people are just going to find out at one day that you're a fraud, and that like everything, that all the work that you've done is just, you know, you managed to somehow fool a lot of people into thinking that like you knew what you're doing. And yeah, it's just like, that's kind of the struggle that I have, guys. Like, I'm just being honest, just like kind of spilling my beans here. And it's really funny because in Warhammer, I feel the same way, right? Like I did um JB, thanks for the question. I will get back to it. So I will get back to it. Let me just finish my thoughts on this, and then I'll be a little bit more positive. But literally, this happened to me a few weeks ago. So Steve Joel, who does a podcast called 40K Game Changers on the FLG network, approached me and said, "Hey, can I have, like, do you want to do an interview, 40K Game Changers?" And I was like, "Me? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what the fuck did I ever do, right? Like, I'm no fucking nobody." And you know, he's like, you know what? Like, he's like, we'll like, uh, he's like, you know, don't worry about that. Like, I'll like, I'm sure like I can find some things that we can talk about, some of your accolades and stuff like that. And I was like, sure, man. I mean, if you say so. Like, I don't really know like how I'm a game changer or how I've done anything. So I was like in this like weird headspace where I was like, oh man, what am I going to talk about? Like, I shouldn't be on this podcast. It's only for like, you know, people that are actually like good and like actually like, you know, are big in some way. Like they had fucking Rick Priestley on the show. They had fucking Rick Priestley on the show a month ago. Rick Priestley, the fucking father of Warhammer, on the show. And then they have me. They had Mini Wargaming Dave, who has 200,000 followers on YouTube. They had the Play on Tabletop guys, who are the fastest growing YouTube channel in fucking Warhammer. And like, here it is, here I am, the schmuck, right, on his show, thinking, what the fuck have I done, right? Like, what the fuck, why the fuck am I here? And you know, like, we talked, we had a good interview, and I think it's gonna go live next week, not this week, but next week. So make sure to tune it in, and I'll make sure to post it in all my channels and stuff like that when it goes live. But the Imposter Syndrome just came right back. I was like, fuck, do I deserve to be on this podcast? Like, why am I on this podcast? Like, what is... And, you know, the 40K community, as much as it's been great, and it's actually something that I do talk about quite a bit on the podcast, which is when my army got stolen last year, the outpouring of support and love, and, like, people saying, like, literally messaging me out of the blue saying, hey, like, we'll send you models, we'll send you... you know, I had people literally donate me hundreds of dollars of models, that kind of stuff. 40K community is amazing, but it's also extremely brutal, right? And so, you know, I'm in a few different groups, and I've had people that I've never met or met once come out and attack me, say that I'm like a washout, say that I'm like just I suck, I just net list, and I have no ability, this kinds of things. And like, you know, for the most part, I try to ignore that kind of stuff, but like, it gets to you. It definitely like hits you in a certain way, and like it kind of fuels that imposter syndrome where you're like, you know what, they're probably right. Like, I only won a few of those events because my list was, you know, cheesy, or I was never actually a good player, but my list was really good, and so that's why I won all those events. And that's kind of the thought process I go through, and it's so hard, especially now, like a year since I've really done anything from a Warhammer perspective. I haven't really been playing events, haven't really been like doing anything like of note, so to speak. And you know, still someone the other day posted on Facebook that they tagged me. They're like, "Hey, we need a really good chaos player to like ask questions to." And I was like, "Dude, why are you tagging me? Like, I don't know shit. I'm just like a scrub, right?" And even when I've been playing my WTC matches, I literally played a guy in Germany on the German team who destroyed me. But he was like, "Dude, I'm so honored to play you. Like, I was so excited to play you when I found out I was playing you. Like, you know, we know you're such a legend in Canada and all this stuff." And I was like, are you high? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I literally don't know shit. And it was just like, it's just been something that I've struggled with professionally. I've struggled with personally. And anyways, I don't know where I was going with this. I just wanted to share that. I'm definitely gonna have a longer kind of discussion with some other people on it about it on the Best Overall show in the future. I really want to kind of get maybe even someone that's like a psychologist or someone that like can help with that kind of stuff, and find a few other people that have kind of struggled with it to kind of make it more of a discussion, not just me kind of ranting. But that was just like, I had a very big bout of imposter syndrome in both my personal life and my professional life this week, and I just wanted to kind of talk about it. Yeah, so all right, that's my Monday rants, guys. So my two big discussion topics I really wanted to talk about. So now that I've gotten that off my chest, thank you for being my my platform, even the few people that are tuning in to listen and kind of give me some of their thoughts. I do appreciate all your guys' stuff. Lonely Sandbar, man, I feel it, dude. That like balance of like being critical and like recognizing your own worth and understanding like um understanding like your limitations, and then not beating your and then when you do legitimately fail, like not beating yourself up so much. Like, it's so difficult, especially like I I I feel like for me, and this isn't me being like egotistical, but in everything I do, like in my company, I'm an executive in our company. Like I'm at a very high level in our company, so the expectations are very high. And in my Warhammer, in my hobby career, people now have this very high expectation of me, right? They're like, Jim, hobby track winner. Jim won all these events. Number 2 in the ITC, was number 1 for like the whole year. Like all won it, like won this, won that, blah 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 blah. And it's like the bar is set so high, both in my hobby and in my like professional life, that it just feels like I'm always gonna struggle with that now. Like, I almost feel like when I was just a nobody, when I was just like a sous chef, or when I was just like a bottom table player, it was a lot easier. It was a lot more about just enjoying myself. And I still, don't get me wrong, guys, I still love like playing and that kind of stuff. But I guess my point being, it's like, it feels now that like everyone knows my name, and it's like they're constantly, looking to see what I'm doing or how I'm doing. And when you fall, they're up your ass like fucking in 2 seconds about like how shitty you are and how like you never were good and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just a difficult struggle, guys. No doubt about it. But yeah, just wanted to share. So let me know if you guys have ever struggled with anything like that. JB, I appreciate or Lonely Sandbar, I appreciate your comments as well. Yeah, one thing that I have learned, and speaking about like words that are used negatively, it's like, so selfishness. So a lot of people always think that like, so one thing that I've started to do is to be more selfish. And I say that with like kind of pride, because I think a lot of people look at selfishness and they say, okay, well, if you're selfish, you're putting yourself first. Like, you're putting yourself first, which, yes, there are situations where there's like needless selfishness. Like, there's selfishness to the point of like maliciousness. But ultimately, and this is something that I very strongly believe, in order to be happy, you have to be selfish. If you want to be happy in your life, you have to put yourself first. You cannot rely on your happiness cannot rely on other people, which means you got to do the things, whether it's in your job, in your relationships, in your activities, where that make you happy, because no one else can do it for you. And so in that sense, it's okay to be selfish. It's okay to be selfish when it means you being happy. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think a lot of people think that like, oh, like, don't be selfish. But I actually think that it's okay to be selfish as long as, you're obviously not doing it in a malicious way or in a way that like is like gratuitous, I guess, right? Like obviously if there's like a whole cake and I don't want to share any because I'm just selfish and I want the whole cake for myself and I want to eat some now, some tomorrow, and some. Yeah, that's like malicious selfishness. But if being selfish means if like not hanging out with your friends or not not giving your time up to other people, right? Or not investing in other people, like doing things that you want to do, or holding the line on things that you're looking forward to, and not letting people talk you out of it. If that's being selfish, then I'm a very selfish person, right? Like even this stream, this is selfish. This stream I'm doing, I'm not doing it like obviously I want to share as much as I can, but like do you know why I'm doing the stream? It's because for me this is like I'm being selfish, right? Like I'm being selfish because I want to do something for me. I want to do something that I enjoy and that I find happiness in and joy in. I'm not doing this for anyone else but me. And that's just the truth, right? Like I'm not doing it for the audience. I'm not doing it for uh, to impress anyone. I'm not doing it to make money or like to get any sort of fame. I'm simply doing it because I enjoy it and I'm gonna invest my time in it and like that's something that like I'm being selfish about, right? Like, and if someone was like, Jim, and this literally happened, and the reason I brought it up, someone was like, Jim, like, your stream schedule means that like I can't see you as much, right? Like this was a girl in my life, um, and for me it's like, yeah, I know, but like right now this is something that I want to spend my time on and my energy, and like in that sense I'm being selfish. Like I wanna be selfish here in this area of my life. It's something that I wanna put my time into. So, anyways, all right, that's my mental my mental state, guys. So happy Monday. Um, Let me know what you guys struggle with, and maybe I can give you advice. Maybe I shouldn't though, because I'm not a mental health professional. Um, but I can always give perspectives on what I think. But I appreciate everyone's comments though, guys. It does mean a lot that people are kind of like engaged in these kinds of discussions. I often feel like especially as a man, that like we're told like not to talk about mental health, not to talk about like our struggles, not to be vulnerable, always pretend that like everything's perfect and that you're great and you're strong and you're you know um, macho and stuff like that. And so I always think it's important to be able to share and just be really straightforward with people and honest about where we're all at, because we're all struggling with different things. And I think it's important that there's ways to talk about that stuff. um, and especially in this pandemic life, like I haven't really had a lot of outlets and stuff to talk about it, and so maybe the stream is one of those. So maybe that's why I started it, just so I could have some free some, turn you guys into my personal shrinks. Hopefully not. Hopefully this channel is a lot more positive and hobby focused, but sometimes I'm gonna have those days. So